Bartender Cheryl Richter is suing her former best friend, clerk Debbie Parker, for a series of unpaid loans. Debbie says the money was never a loan.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 296 on the calendar in the matter of Richter versus Parker. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Richter, you and the defendant were best friends, according to the complaint that I've read. You claim that you made a series of loans to her. She did not pay you back. As a result of that, you didn't have enough money to allow your daughter to be on the cheerleading squad. Ms. Parker says that you always made more money than she did. You were best friends. There was never any loan. You did things together, and you paid for it because you had more money.
Yes.
How long have you been friends?
Approximately 8 years.
And tell me about the first loan that you claim to have made.
Well, the first loan, I was approached in May of 2001. Debbie needed to attend a wedding out of state, and her credit cards were maxed out, so she needed to use mine to purchase the tickets for the airlines.
Who was supposed to go to the wedding?
Debbie and her daughter, Jessica.
Only the two of them?
Yes.
Was this
correct.
a wedding that you were supposed to attend as well?
I was approached about attending the wedding a few months earlier, and I had let Debbie know that I would not be unable to attend.
At the time you put her tickets on your credit card, had you already told her that you weren't going to the wedding?
Yes, I had already told her weeks before that I would not be attending.
And how much were those tickets?
The airline tickets were $500.
Let me see. Did you ask her to put your airline tickets on her credit card?
I told Cheryl that I wasn't going to be able to go to the wedding because I didn't have enough funds, and she offered to help me, but not with the understanding that I would pay her back. Cheryl has always helped me in the past, and if there was ever agreement to pay her back, I always have.
So you tell me your version of how it came about, because now I understand that she actually did pay for the tickets, and I want you to tell me how it came about.
How it came
about.
Look at me. Yes. How it came about was that myself and my daughter, Jessica, we were going to go with Cheryl and Lauren back to my niece's wedding. While we were back east, we were going to also go to New York, hang out, have some fun, and we've gone on vacations many times before. When the time came closer to purchase the tickets, Cheryl did tell me that she could not go. I think she had something going on with her daughter, but it wasn't very early on in the planning. It was fairly close, maybe a month or two before we were going to go.
A month or two was not very close. Not the last minute, as you indicate in your answer to me. You say at the last minute she canceled out. She did not cancel out the last minute. She canceled out at least a month before.
It could have been a month before.
She didn't cancel out. She said, I'm not going. Go ahead.
Right.
And you said?
I said, okay. And I hung up. Went on with my couple of weeks before I was getting ready to go. When I was going to make airline arrangements for myself and my daughter, I found that I did not have the funds at that time. And I called Cheryl and we talked. She offered to put this...
No, talking. Tell me what you did when you called her.
But it wasn't unusual for us to call each other.
You just told me you called her.
Right. I called her. We talked on the phone.
What did you say to her and what did she say to you?
We probably said, how's Lauren doing? I don't remember the exact conversation word by word, but I did tell her that I didn't think I was going to be able to go because I didn't have the funds. Cheryl offered to put it on her credit card.
Okay. And you have to pay her back.
This isn't unusual.
No good deed is... Shh, be quiet.
In the past, if she has ever lent me any money, I have always paid her back.
Listen to me, my dear.
This was not
Listen to me, my dear. This was your niece's wedding.
Yes.
Your answer suggested that this was a wedding that you were both supposed to go to, that at the last minute she canceled out. She had put all the tickets on her credit card. She said, I'm not going. But for the fact that you were going together as a group, you wouldn't have gone at all. That's not really what happened. What happened is she gave you plenty of notice. I'm not going to the wedding. I have something else to do. A month or two in advance. You were going to put it on your credit card. You didn't have enough credit on your credit card. You pick up the phone, you call her. Because that's what you just started to tell me.
Yes.
You have to pay her back. What's the next loan for?
After she returned from the wedding, approximately a week later, she called me and told me that she needed to borrow some cash to pay bills either towards her rent or utilities or what have you. She needed $500 and wanted to know if I would be able to lend that to her. I said that I would, and outside of the airline tickets, there's the hotel expenses on there as well when she went to the wedding. And I went to her house and I brought her a check, and she still told me that she would be paying me back within about approximately 2 months.
Do you have a copy of that check?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Okay. Let's hear about it, Miss Parker.
Up until right now, when she just handed you the check, I did not remember that. I did not remember about $500. I was going to come here and tell you I didn't owe it because I didn't remember.
Yeah, I see it in your answer that you say that she never gave you any cash. Okay. What else?
Then after that, we went to a concert.
After that, when?
September, Labor Day weekend. The four of us, I purchased all 4 concert tickets and was to be reimbursed for the concert tickets as well as the charges on the credit card and the $500.
How much were the concert tickets?
Each ticket was $56.25, so it was $102.50 for the 2 concert tickets.
What about the concert tickets?
In August, we met at Islands to celebrate my daughter's birthday. She told me that weekend she had tickets to go to a concert, and she invited us to go. We went. She never said anything about paying her back. She was a good friend of mine.
Was a good friend. A good friend doesn't borrow money and not pay it back.
Well, then why didn't you ever say anything? I mean, our children talked online for a year, and she never said anything to me about this. And also, they invited us to her house for 4th of July. What was that?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't have that kind of money either, so I had to use the fundraising.
We could have raised the funds to pay.
You could have asked.
Listen to me.
You could have just said something to me.
Ladies.
Instead of waiting a year and then
Ms.
doing
Parker.
this to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Richter claims former friend Debbie Parker owes for several unpaid loans. Cheryl says her daughter can't be a cheerleader until Debbie repays the money.
Miss Parker, let me ask you this question. What do you think
I don't
precipitated
know.
this? Maybe it was because she felt taken advantage of. If you didn't
If she
remember
would have just said one word to me like, I need help, can you help me?
Well, when was the first time she told you that she wanted you to give her this money back?
On July 5th of this year,
Yes.
I received a letter. I tried to contact her to make some type of arrangements. I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. She never returned my calls.
And you can't think of any reason that happened.
I was hoping to find out from her why she's doing this to me, why she's standing there lying.
No, there's no lying. There's no lying.
When we
you did,
went
in fact, listen to me, Miss Parker. You did, in fact, borrow $500. You said to me, I didn't remember it until I saw the
Yes,
check.
that's true.
So it's $500, and it's well over a year. You never paid her back. But there had to be something, July 4th, something must have triggered it. I read her complaint. She says what triggered it was she didn't have money to sign her daughter up for cheerleading.
That's correct. And in fact, when we went to the concert in September, first of all, Debbie did acknowledge that she owed the money. She told me she had forgot her checkbook. And she told me that she was sorry that she hadn't paid me back yet. And she was coming over the next night for dinner. And when she came over that night, she was out of checks.
That's not true.
And then I ran into her after that in October, I believe, having dinner and drinks with coworkers. My daughter ran into her at the mall shopping at Christmas. And in April of 2002, when my daughter was to try out for an all-star cheer squad, she went to the practices. She was approached by the coach. She was a year too young for the squad, but because her abilities were up to the level of the squad members, they would make an allowance. Well, I wasn't able to allow her to try out because I found out the cost was $2,000.
$2,000 to try out for cheerleaders?
For the entire year, including travel expenses. They're a top-ranked team in the nation, so they go to Texas and Florida for nationals. It would be for all the training as well as all of the uniforms.
Did you have to come up with the $2,000 up front?
Within a few weeks, so there was no time for me to fundraise to try to raise that money. So the coach called me the day of tryouts inquiring about whether or not she was going to try out. I just told the coach owner that I didn't know. I was embarrassed to tell her that I couldn't afford it.
Okay, so you got irritated. I
got irritated. Plus, Debbie's daughter, Jessica, is on a cheer squad, and she was able to find the $1,500 for her to participate last year and is once again on that cheer squad. Yet I'm saying no to my daughter because of her debt.
Gotcha.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I saw Cheryl, yes, out when I was at a restaurant with a girlfriend. Cheryl came in, no problem. Hey, we hugged. I go, my God, you look great. You just got back from Tahiti. She wasn't angry with me. She didn't say a word to me about any of this.
Something happened. I have a sense that whatever happened...
Maybe it was this whole thing about cheerleading, but let me tell you, please, I didn't pay a penny for her to go on cheerleading. So you should get your facts right.
Talk to me.
I didn't pay a penny.
Did she have a scholarship?
No. I fundraised. I sold entertainment books to get her on the cheerleading squad at her high school. Because I don't have that kind of money either, so I had to use the fundraising.
We could have raised the funds to pay.
No.
You could have
different.
asked.
Listen
you
to
could
me,
have just said something to me.
ladies.
Instead of waiting a year and then
Miss
doing this to me.
Miss Parker, shh. Please don't fight with each other. Gone beyond that. Just think about this. She can't fundraise to pay you back.
I understand that.
You understand that. And it's really unfortunate that a friendship denigrated to where we are. I have a feeling it is about the cheerleading. She's told you that you didn't have the money that she fundraised. You didn't have time to do that. And I assume that it has to do with your kids, because nothing could make a mother get the tentacles out.
I just feel that this debt was not a priority to her. She found
May not have
had the
been.
time and the effort
It
to...
may not have been.
But she owes me the money, and it doesn't matter.
She owes you the money.
It doesn't matter if I make more money. It doesn't matter if I make less money. She owes me the money.
You are absolutely 100% right. There is no faster way of destroying a friendship than lending money. Period. I'm much older than you ladies are, and I'm telling you, based upon what I've seen, the one who lends the money always ends up as the bad one. They want it back. It's not a good time. They don't need it right now. Why is she doing this, or why is he doing this to me?
Can I say something, Your Honor?
It's not going to make it any better with her. She wants her money. She's angry. She's entitled to her money. I don't know if you can ever repair. Are you two kids friends?
Not really.
Say no, she says.
I thought we were actually online.
She doesn't talk to her
not
online. She
anymore.
doesn't.
Oh,
She
well,
can speak.
that's
You
sad.
haven't?
Shh.
We just talked. She just talked to her, and I told her about my daughter's medical problem, and she said, "What a bummer."
Okay.
I cannot believe that you would sit in here and lie, Lauren. I can't
I
believe
wouldn't
that.
be accusing anybody of lying.
She's going to lie
I don't
that
want to
she
hear
just
about
talked
it
to
anymore.
Jessica?
You're going to 1, 2, 3.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Richter claims former friend Debbie Parker owes for several unpaid loans. Cheryl says her daughter can't be a cheerleader until Debbie repays the money.
Listen, your emotions are hot. And it's very sad because the girls aren't friends anymore and you're not friends anymore. That's what happens when you lend money, when you borrow money, unless you have an agreement. I've always said, if you're going to be a lender, at least put it in writing. Then everybody knows the parameters. Don't be embarrassed. You have to say, listen, Judge Judy Sheindlin said, even though we're best friends, even though we're brother and sister, even though we're cousins, we really should have a writing. That way, everybody knows where they're at. Do you understand? Because they're sad. They're unhappy. They used to be friends. And it is sad. I'm not going to be able to fix it except to say that you're entitled to your money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't like this because me and Jessica aren't friends anymore because our parents have a disagreement. Well, me and her were like best friends, and I don't know, it's just unfortunate that we're not going to be able to be friends.
I really want to be friends with Jessica again.
Well, I know it won't happen, but I just want to be friends with her again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Heath versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Street sweeper Ray Heath is suing his ex-girlfriend, 20-year-old student Nicole Carter, for unpaid rent and for damages to their apartment. Nicole is countersuing, also for apartment damages and for the cost to change the locks.
Mr. Heath, you and Miss Carter decided to set up housekeeping in your own apartment, and you leased an apartment together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you lease the apartment?
April of 2001.
And because neither of you probably had very good credit, your aunt had to co-sign the lease.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there came a time when you and the defendant had an argument, and she called the police and had you removed.
Yes, in August.
And you stayed out of the apartment because she got a protective order against you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
However, she wasn't paying the rent.
Right.
And in order for not only your credit, but primarily, I'm sure, your aunt's credit not to be destroyed, you continued to pay the rent on the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want the defendant to pay at least her half of the rent for the months that you weren't there, that she lived there, until you could get out of the lease. And how many months' rent did you pay from August until when, sir?
The agreement was made when we first moved in April. I paid the rent from April 2001 to January of 2002.
What was the entire rent?
$5,338.
That's an expensive apartment a month. I just want you to tell me, sir, how much a month was the rent?
Oh, $475. I'm sorry about that.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay rent in May, June, or July? Any rent? You did not.
No, ma'am.
So you didn't pay any rent at all in this apartment?
Nope.
Is that right?
he agreed to pay for the rent, and I clean, cook, and pay the electricity and stuff like that.
Did you have an agreement with her where she would pay half the rent?
No.
Yes,
Quiet.
yes, ma'am. Yes, we did. I have my aunt as a witness.
Are you the one who co-signed on this lease?
Yes.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your last name.
Wilkins.
Miss Wilkins, did these two young people come to you and ask you to sign the lease, co-sign the lease?
Yes, they did.
Both of them?
Both of them. I asked Nicole, was this true that she was going to pay half of the rent, and she told me yes.
Does that sound right?
No, ma'am.
Sure it does. Sure
No,
it does.
That's not how it went.
Listen, were you working?
Nope.
Why not?
At the time when we moved out, we didn't have anywhere to stay at, so I lost my job. That's when he said
May, June, July, August, September. Why don't you have a job? What do you do?
I was going to school. I was getting ready to go to school.
No, going to school and getting ready to go to school is two entirely different things.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ray Heath says ex-girlfriend Nicole Carter owes for unpaid rent and apartment damages. Nicole says Ray abused her throughout their relationship.
Why weren't you working?
Because I had no transportation.
Aren't there any stores around this place where you were living?
Mm-hmm. I was looking.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Well, at the time I was driving a sweeper. The
Now let's
streets.
get to the time you put him out of the apartment. Tell me about that.
Well, at the time, he'd been abusing me the whole time I've been with him.
Well, that's,
So-
you know, if you allow that to happen,
Yeah.
then you're just as stupid as he is guilty.
You're right. You're right. So we got into an argument over a car that my mother had gave me, and he took my keys.
What kind of an argument did you get into?
Well,
Your
I
mother had
came
given you a
from-
car, right? Mm-hmm. Your mother had given you a car, so now you had transportation so that you could get a job.
Yeah. You're right.
Right.
So
Well, now what
He didn't
kind of
like-
argument did you have?
he didn't like the fact that I was driving my car, going other places other than looking for a job.
Sounds right to me. He's
But no,
paying all the bills.
It wasn't only that. It was just the simple fact that he didn't like my relationship with my mom, my mother coming around, and people that came to the house. He just was very overprotective. He didn't even want me to leave the house. If I wasn't looking for a job, he didn't want me leaving the house. He just wanted me there to cook, clean, and be there for him.
Okay. So you had an argument. What happened during this argument?
He was trying to take my keys from me, so I went to the bathroom to go put on some clothes, and he just grabbed the door open, grabbed me, and swung me into the bed on the floor. Grabbed my keys and left.
He took your keys and he took you out of the bathroom forcefully and threw you on the bed or the floor.
He threw me to the bed, but I landed on the floor.
He missed. So you called the police
Yep.
and you had him removed. And you got an order of protection.
Next day, when he came back again.
Good. Now you have your car that your mother gave you. And you have a lovely smile.
Thank you.
So why couldn't you get a lovely job so that you could pay the rent? Who did you expect to pay the rent?
He put me through so much stuff where
Who did you expect to pay the rent?
I was going to pay the rent. I had no problem with paying the rent. My mother would have helped me pay the rent, but I just couldn't get him out the house. He still was coming back to the house the whole time, even after I put him out. My house was broken into twice. He was coming, leaving notes, all types of things like that.
You lived there. Why didn't you pay your half of the rent?
Because he agreed to take care of me.
I don't believe you.
He
That
had been-
after you put him out of the house,
He had been taking care of
listen
me
to
the
me
whole time.
carefully, that after you put him out of the house, that he agreed to take care of you.
When I went to go pay the rent, they told me the rent was already paid, so what was I supposed to do? Just say, oh, well, take my money and give him his back?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right, Mr. Heath, listen to me very carefully. You were put out in August. 6 months you paid rent, and you did not have the use of your apartment. The rent is $475 a month. That is $2,850. Half of that is $1,425. Do you understand? You have to think more carefully about what you do, but she's certainly responsible for that. The other 3 months that she lived there with you and you didn't collect her half of the rent, chalk up to your own stupidity. I mean, she's got a great smile and everything else, but you have to separate here from the other parts of your anatomy. In any event, now let's get to your counterclaim. You had to change the locks 3 times because he kept coming back inside?
Twice, yeah.
That's
He
the
was
interest.
not, it wasn't even that he kept coming in, he had broke in twice. He still had access to the house and I got the locks changed. He still was coming in there, leaving notes like turn the lights off and stuff like that. He was coming to get his clothes, he was living there. If I wasn't there, he was there.
You mean he was sleeping there?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I would come there some nights and the bed would be messed up.
But he wasn't there.
But I was just scared. He wasn't there when I got there.
Okay. You changed the locks, it made you feel safer?
No.
Oh, that's too big.
Because he would still call and be like, turn the lights off.
Explain something to you. Go home and live with your mother.
I did.
Good, you should have done it sooner. You should have done it sooner. The only reason you did it was because you didn't have the sucker anymore to pay your way.
Basically.
Basically. That's absolutely right. As soon as the sucker stopped paying your way, then you move back with your mother. You're a taker. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,425, and you get zippo, nada, nothing on your counterclaim.
Well, at least I had an apartment.
All is excused. You may step out.
Instead of him trying to be a pimp, he is a wimp.
I'm glad I got my money.
Stop pimping people.
Stop messing with low-life, hood rat, you know, females, and just focus on me and get my life together.
He was trying to pimp her, and he's a wimp.
I don't know what they talking about. I mean, I guess that's in their nature, low-budget hoes.
Don't mess with fake players.
Don't mess with low-life females.
Pimping ain't easy.
Donna Ward and her husband, Bill, are suing their son, 28-year-old house builder Sean Ward, and his fiancée, 24-year-old accountant Michelle Price. Donna says while visiting the couple's home, Sean assaulted her. Sean and Michelle are countersuing for filing false charges.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 106 on the calendar in the matter of Ward versus Price. Ward. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Ward, the defendant is your son, and the co-defendant is his fiancée or girlfriend. Correct. You have children together?
Yes, ma'am. Not together. I have a son and she has a daughter.
But they live with you?
Yes, ma'am.
I've read your complaint very carefully, Mrs. Ward. This is your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you claim that your son assaulted you in his home, and that his fiancée was present, and while there is no claim that she assaulted you, she did nothing to prevent it.
Correct.
I don't know why you're standing up as a plaintiff, just to give moral support to your wife, sir?
Well, not only moral support, but I was there also because I wanted to stop the situation with my
You
boy.
were there on the evening of this alleged assault with your wife?
Yes, I was.
Why were you and your wife at your son's home?
Okay, my wife had called my son up. She wanted to talk to him. This is through a prior conversation. She'd been trying to deal with him for a while.
About what, Mrs. Ward?
Go ahead.
About the TV and the VCR.
Tell me about the TV and the VCR.
My son and his wife, Ben, were having problems. Sean had sold everything in his house. He didn't have a good job like he does now. I mean, he was doing work, piecework.
Just a second. I read your complaint very carefully. Let me see if I can make this, because this is just a background to the story.
Okay.
Your son came to live with you for a while.
Yes, ma'am.
He was supposed to pay you rent, $50 a week.
Right.
He didn't pay you the rent.
No,
Exactly.
ma'am, I did pay.
Shh.
Okay.
You claimed he didn't pay you the rent. And you said, when you move, you'll leave me the TV and the VCR for the rent. And then when he moved out, he took the TV and the VCR.
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason you and your husband went over there that night was to take back the TV and the VCR.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, tell me what happened when you got there.
They were eating dinner. So we went in the living room while they was eating and watched TV. The children were there, too, eating. They got done, came in and gave us a hug, you know, and Michelle was getting them ready for bed. And so Sean says, well, you're here, what do you want to talk about? And I said, the TV and VCR. He said, I knew that's what it was going to be about. And he stood up. I said, he says, I do not owe you anything, Mom, nothing, and I want you out of the house. Well, I have a book right here where I kept notes, and his signature is on it. And I said, son, I have proof. I opened the book, and that's when he stood up and got very angry at me, and told me to, I don't know the words he said, to get out.
Get out of the house.
And actually, I didn't really believe him. I meant, he's my baby son, and I believe in his
Just
word.
a minute. So he told you to leave his house at least twice?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
And I said, you're kidding, Sean. He said, I'm not kidding. Baba. He said some other words. And I said, then I'll go up and get it myself. I know I can't. Look at me, how much I weigh. I knew I couldn't. get it myself.
Where was your husband during all this time?
Can I speak? I was in the living room.
So you were in the living room. So your
Yes.
wife was going to go upstairs and take the TV and the VCR. That's what she said she was going to do anyway.
That's correct.
So she started up the stairs, and what happened? Mrs. Ward.
Well, as she proceeded to start upstairs, first of all, I was shocked on the whole situation, the anger he threw at his mother. As I seen this anger, I just kind of looked at him and said, you know, you shouldn't talk to your mother that way because she is your mother, irregardless, you know, what she says or does. She proceeded to go upstairs. I went with her upstairs to slow her down and said, honey, I think we might as well go ahead and leave. And she says, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here till he either gives me the VCR and the TV. And at that point, he says, well, I'm going to call the sheriff. She said, well, go ahead and call the sheriff. And he just got angry at that point. He says, well, the heck with it. As I was proceeding to hold her back a little bit from proceeding upstairs,
Correct.
then he turned around and got angry and turned around and says, well, by God, I'll get her out. Then he jerked her off the step, holding onto the steps, threw her on his back. I told him, do not hurt your mother. He says, oh, I'm going to put her out if that's the only way I can get her out. Then I heard a big old thud in the living room, and I come running in there. She had hit the floor. I don't know if he dropped her or what happened. She was really hurt, and at that time she was speechless. She was shocked, and she says, I am going on my own. You don't need to manhandle me anymore.
Incorrect.
So he proceeded to pick her up by the arm, straight up, head on out the door, all the way to the car, slammed her into the car. She hit her head on the door as she went in. And at that time, he just said, this is where you're going to stay, get out of here. So that's as far as it went. Why I didn't do anything. People says, well, why didn't you get a pipe and hit him over the head? First of all, he's my son. I do love him. I love my wife both. They're trying to make a choice so quickly, and I'm not really much of a match to go jumping ahead and start doing something to my son again to his house. So there's a lot of thoughts had to go through my head. And
was your wife drinking that day?
No, she was not.
She had anything to drink of an alcoholic nature? Just
No,
make sure.
She doesn't.
She don't drink. She might drink a little something that wasn't alcohol. That
Okay,
had
so
anything to do with
this was not alcohol related. She was in total control of her senses
It was drug
when she
induced.
came to your house. Is that right?
Drug-induced, not alcohol.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That was part of the deal.
Deal, Schmiel, listen to me.
I gave him a place to live, Your Honor.
Big deal. It's your child.
And later today,
The relationship was quite expensive.
He gave me a promise ring.
She was constantly asking for money.
He promised to marry me.
I felt that I was being taken advantage of, literally.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Ward says her son, Sean Ward, assaulted her while she was visiting his home. Sean says his mother was belligerent and refused to leave.
You take prescription medication?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Now, you have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them. The marks that I see on your arms are consistent with being picked up by your arms.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your injury.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to let you tell me your side of the story, Mr. Ward.
Okay.
Okay. First of all,
Go ahead.
the case is dismissed for all purposes against Miss Price because she did not participate in this,
Correct.
other than to stand by and do nothing, which is the same thing you did, Mr. Ward. She's not even married to him. You're married to her. Why would you sue Miss Price?
Because I felt like, just like he did, tried to get Sean to calm down, I was hoping that maybe she...
Your
I don't
husband
know.
didn't come to your defense. Why would a stranger?
Not for me, for her husband. I thought maybe she would ask Sean to stop. I mean, that's all.
She's not a party to this case.
Okay.
So, tell me your version of the events. Your mother came to get...
Yes,
your mother
ma'am.
came?
My mother came to the house. I had paid them $100 a week instead of the $50 that she was agreed on to pay. So therefore, she knew the TV was paid for. She let me take it on wheel out the house. The only reason that I had any confrontation with her at all, because both my 5- and 6-year-old kids were standing in the living room, that she had asked for them to be present. I thought maybe she had a health problem that she was getting ready to tell us about. And when she did come up with that situation, I did get angry, but I did stand up and ask them both to leave. I opened both the doors, and I said, y'all need to leave. And I might have said it a little meaner, to get out of my house.
Right.
They would not leave.
Ultimately, you picked her up and put her out of the house.
Yes, ma'am. I picked her up off the steps.
And that's what the marks are on her arm.
That possibly could be.
All right. This part of the case is pretty easy. Mr. and Mrs. Ward, you are not entitled to any damages. You entered his home with his permission.
Exactly.
Then he asked you to leave. You refused to leave. At that point, you are trespassing on his property. He asked you to leave again. You still would not leave. The law permits him, as I'm sure the judge told you in court when you were there on the criminal case, that he has the right to use reasonable force. Can't shoot you. He can't stab you. But he can physically take you and move you out of his property, which is exactly what he did. Now, the fact that I don't understand why you are there trying, if your son is finally back on his feet, and he's now got a good job, and he's got a home, and he's got 2 kids that he's taking care of, why in the world you would make a big deal out of a television set and an old VCR? I haven't a clue. But I'm not going into that.
Okay.
Because there's no logical reason why you would go to his house and create a scene with 2 children there to get back a TV and a VCR that you think was owed to you for rent.
I did not. I let the children go upstairs. I've asked him without the children being around.
I don't know why you would ask for it at all.
Because, ma'am, that was part of the deal.
Deal, Schmiel, listen to me.
I gave him a place to live, Your Honor.
Big deal. He's your child.
I know, and I'm his mom. I did not want to do this.
Well, you shouldn't have done it.
Sean knows in his heart that he said, I believed in his word. And
Mrs. Ward.
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 7.
If your child has not been doing well for a while, as you said, he'd been in and out of your house, and he was finally, according to you, finally got a good job and back on his feet, what mother in her right mind would say, now I'm going to take the television set that you watch and the VCR that you watch, or that the children watch in their room? There's no excuse. You could talk from today till tomorrow. I have children.
I know.
And for $250, you went to the house to make a scene?
No, ma'am, I did not intend to make any kind of
Of course
scene.
you did. Because
No,
once
ma'am.
he said to you, I'm here for the TV and the VCR, and he said, I don't want to talk about it
I
now,
only
please
started
leave, then you decided to go upstairs and you said, I'm going to take it myself. That's creating a scene.
I didn't think that I was very smart, Your Honor.
Oh, fine.
But he had
Good.
gotten a big, huge television, and I figured that he knew we were down. That TV would have helped us. We were down, and there was nobody helping us.
Stop it. Your children aren't supposed to help you. You're supposed to help them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Ward says her son, Sean Ward, assaulted her while she was visiting his home. Sean says his mother was belligerent and refused to leave.
You were arrested for assault,
Yes, ma'am.
and those charges were dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that they were dismissed, Mr. Ward, because they ultimately determined that you had the legal right to put your mother off the property.
Correct on
Is
her
that
own
right?
testimony. I didn't even have to testify.
Right. You can't sue her.
Right.
Here, you can't sue her.
Correct.
The district attorney determined that there was sufficient evidence to go to trial with, because your mother had your fingerprint marks on her arms.
Correct.
Why she proceeded that far, I don't know, but she did. So you have no right to sue her for false arrest, because you did, in fact, put your hands on her. You weren't in fear of your life from your mother.
No,
You weren't in fear of life, and certainly not from
No,
your
ma'am.
father, because he didn't do anything.
No, ma'am. I intended no harm, and due respect to you and her, I do love my mother. Only thing I have here is the bills that I had to pay, my lawyer bills,
You
and
shouldn't have put your hands on your mother.
then been out.
You shouldn't have put
You're
your,
absolutely correct,
You shouldn't have
ma'am.
put
But
your hands
I
on
was
your mother.
looking
Pay your
forward-
own bills.
I was looking forward
Case
to
is
my
dismissed.
kids.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
हेलो गाइस, कैसे हो आप सब लोग। दोस्तों, आज मेरे पास एप्सन का L3210 प्रिंटर आया हुआ है। उसमें दिक्कत क्या है कि ये लाइट ब्लिंक हो रही है, लाइट अपना मूवमेंट नहीं कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, तो एक बार मैं आपको ऑन ऑफ करके दिखा देता हूँ। से देखिए, तुरंत लाइट ये ब्लिंक होने लगती है, और ना तो हमें हेड मूवमेंट करता है, ना कोई साउंड इसमें आता है। तो एक्चुअल में दिक्कत क्या होती है, सबसे पहले आपको इसको स्कैनर को निकाल लेना है। उसके बाद आपको करना क्या है कि आपको अपनी ये हेड केबल है या फिर हेड केबल, सबसे पहले हेड केबल चेंज करनी है। उसके बाद अगर हेड केबल चेंज करने के बाद में भी आपका ये जो प्रॉब्लम है वो सोल्व नहीं हो रही है, तो आप उसको बोर्ड में चेक कर सकते हैं। हो सकता है कोई इंक जाने से या तो आपका हेड शॉर्ट हो गया है या फिर उसके बाद ये बोर्ड शॉर्ट हो जाते हैं। तो सबसे पहले हम क्या करेंगे, सबसे पहले हम ये करेंगे, इसके जो हेड केबल है ये वाली, इसको चेंज करेंगे। उसके बाद की प्रोसेस आगे देखेंगे। इसका तरीका क्या है मैं आपको बता देता हूँ। ये जो है ना, यहाँ पे ये लॉक है, ठीक है, इसको आपको इस प्रकार से हटा लेना है। ये हट गया है, ठीक है। और आपको ये निकाल लेना है। यदि ईजी है, सबसे पहले आपको ये निकाल लेना है। निकाल लिया हमने। इसके बाद आपको ये निकाल लेना है। हेड केबल चेंज करनी है आपने को सबसे पहले, ये रहा, ठीक है। अब इसको चेंज करने का तरीका क्या है, इसको आपको यहाँ से इसको भी ओपन करना है। ये वाला जो पार्ट है ये धोले हुआ, इसको भी आप ये जो यहाँ से ये है, इसको अंदर डाल के उसको अप करना है, ठीक है। इसको निकालने के बाद आपको ये तीनों स्क्रू ओपन करने हैं। तीनों स्क्रू ओपन करने के बाद इसको हेड को आपको बाहर निकाल लेना है। ये तीनों स्क्रू ओपन निकालने के बाद आपको करना क्या है कि यहाँ से आपको इसको हल्का सा, ठीक है, यहाँ पे लॉक होता है, अब इसको ऊपर निकाल लेना है आपको। ये देखिए आ गया ऊपर, ठीक है। अब हमें चेक करना है कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है, या फिर आपको हेड केबल चेंज कर लेनी। ये देखिए अपना हेड केबल या फिर हेड शॉर्ट हो चुका है। अब हम चेंज करेंगे अपनी ये जो हेड केबल है, उसके बाद चेक करेंगे कि क्या ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व होती है। अदरवाइज़ ये हेड ख़राब हो गया है, हेड शॉर्ट हो चुका है।